What is up, everybody? I'm No Lux Given here with your afternoon snap, and this is the most consistent build for Hela in Marvel Snap. And this game is the best possible example of that consistency. We're going to take a look at a few highlights in this video, but we're going to kick things off with this one, and you'll see what I mean by the end of it. So this deck is now really consistent, and part of the reason for that is you play Invisible Woman, which allows you to run MODOK. I just opened up MODOK in Spotlight Caches this week, so I'm super excited to finally be able to play this card. And what that allows you to do is play Magic, Crystal, Jubilee, and Iron Lad in your discard deck. The rest is just going to be focused on contributing a lot of power to every location. But Magic, Crystal, Jubilee, Iron Lad, 4 cards, 1/3 of your deck dedicated to consistency. You could even play America. I have seen some lists that are running that as well, but all of these things are just going to work towards making your deck even smaller, so that way you get to draw MODOK and Hela every single game. And part of the reason that this game here is so awesome, I'm gonna let you in on it right now. Hela is on the bottom of my deck right now. I, of course, don't know that as I'm playing this game. And typically in a game of Marvel Snap, if you build a deck around a card and that card is at the bottom, you're kind of boned, but not with this list, because we're going to be able to find that Hela on the final turn of the game. Invisible Woman allows you to do a lot of funky stuff, especially with these consistency cards and timing your MODOK and your Hela. So in this game, I've got MODOK already. I don't have the Hela, so I'm just going to play MODOK, discard Infinite Giganto, Onslaught, and Living Tribunal. So we're going to throw a bunch of power in our discard pile there, and then we're going to use Iron Lad plus Invisible Woman to find Hela, if we can't already just draw it naturally on turn 6 or 7. So we'll just play Iron Lad this turn, nothing else to see. And then I don't have a exact deck tracker. I was just playing this game on mobile. But the rest of the cards that are currently in my deck right now are going to be Jubilee, Crystal, and then Hela. Now there's only 2 cards in my deck. I just flashed it up there for a second. So now my deck is just Jubilee or Hela. So either Iron Lad hits Jubilee, which hits Hela, or it hits Hela. So either way, I'm going to hit Hela here. We can see my opponent is also putting a ton of power on the board with their own Hela, playing a Black Knight version. Might play a Black Knight version myself at some point this weekend, but you can just see Hela on the bottom of the deck. We hit the Jubilee, Jubilee hits the Jubilee, which then hits the Hela, and we are just barely able to grab a win there in limbo. 5-point differential, but that's kind of the other fun thing about this deck that makes it really consistent in a slightly different way. But Living Tribunal, giving you flat power across all 3 locations, is a type of consistency, and I think definitely adds to just the consistent feel of this deck, with my opponent having a little bit more of high rolly aspects in different locations. By the way, I meant to bring this up at the beginning of this video, but there's currently a weekend mission for discarding 30 cards. So there's a ton of fun decks that you can do that with on my channel as well. I will probably, like I said, play some Black Knight games at some point throughout the weekend and try to get those up as soon as possible. But if you don't have Black Knight, if you are just looking to discard 30 cards, I think that this deck is a great way to do so. There are alternate lines with winning with it as well, which is what I wanted to showcase in this one here. I think what happens in this one is I just don't draw the MODOK. Now, in a similar way, what you can do in games where you don't draw MODOK is you can put Hela behind Invisible Woman, and then on the final turn of the game, you can play those things like Jubilee, Iron Lad, and, well, not really Magic and Crystal. You play those before that happens. But you can do it in that order as well, and try to find the MODOK on the final turn of the game, and then have Hela flop out of the Invisible Woman to reanimate all of those cards. But this game is going to be a different take on the consistency, and apologies that this turn took a little while. I think I was just busy doing something else. But yeah, we're gonna play Crystal this turn. Pretty straightforward, but it gave me some time to chat a little bit. And we actually do draw the MODOK, but we don't draw the Invisible Woman. This deck is kind of an Invisible Woman combo deck secretly, which is part of the reason that you might want to run America. If you're looking to do that, you can probably cut Giganto from the list to slot America in. But this game, because we don't have Invisible Woman, which is arguably like the main combo piece in the deck, more so than even Hela and MODOK, because you can use Invisible Woman in tricky ways like I was describing and in that first game to potentially find the other cards a little bit easier with your consistent cards. Here we find Invisible Woman, but it's on turn 5. America wouldn't have helped us this game at all, but Invisible Woman on turn 5 with no magic means that the sequencing isn't going to line up. So instead, I'm gonna try to find Iron Man off of my Iron Lad, and I find magic. So not quite Iron Man, and it also means that I won't be able to, I did say magic plus Invisible Woman would work to play Invisible Woman on turn 5. Turn 6 Invisible Woman still isn't gonna work. You just don't have the time to put a Hela behind it and play the cards in the order that you need to. So a little bit of an awkward game here, but we do have Living Tribunal, which is the other thing that I talked about in terms of making this deck consistent. I'm just gonna play Living Tribunal this turn, and then next turn I'm gonna hope to play Iron Man into my Infinite location, and I might just be able to win by that. I've got a lot of power right now, currently 14 in each location, and an Iron Man would help me add a little bit less power now that my opponent has moved my Iron Lad and my Jubilee, but still Iron Man off the top is going to be great. I can still throw down Invisible Woman with it because it will be 2 additional energy on this 7th turn of the game, and that is actually still going to be enough to win me this game, which I thought was just a really cool, and it was right after the previous game that I had just played where Hela was on the bottom of my deck, and I thought just 2 kind of cool examples of how this deck can be consistent. We can see my opponent has a ton of power in that center location, getting a little bit unlucky, honestly, with the Infinite, but that's the strength of Living Tribunal. You don't have to figure out, you don't have to like min-max your values in different locations. You just play Living Tribunal and it does all the work for you. It's consistent, 22 power across the board. It's going to be able to get it done. I'm going to skip to one other game from a Proving Grounds match that I think also highlighted consistency in a really interesting way, this time because we've got Time Theater. So I've got 2 copies of Invisible Woman this game to potentially do some funky stuff with, and I've got Iron Lad and Jubilee to put together the full combo, and that's going to be a little bit useful in this one. We'll just throw down the Invisible Woman into the Pet Mansion, so that worked out well. But my opponent is playing a junk deck. So they are trying to junk up my ability to use my Invisible Woman. I'm gonna throw down Magic into Hela this turn because I thought it might be good to stop my opponent's Rock and Hood from blowing up and limiting my opponent's space, but my opponent is also going to very much be limiting my space this game with Titania plus Green Goblin into the Time Theater. So now my first Invisible Woman is totally useless, and also my opponent gets rid of my second Invisible Woman this turn with an Enchantress. So now I'm gonna play Iron Lad. It doesn't hit MODOK, which is really good for me. That could have been deadly there. But now without an Invisible Woman, I can't play Hela this turn and then hope to hit. Also, my board is just totally junked up. I don't have room to reanimate a bunch of things. So I'm just gonna play Giganto into Limbo here. My opponent will hit me with a Green Goblin, so I get even less space, and I'm losing in that center Time Theater location. But Living Tribunal will be able to win me the Time Theater and could potentially score me a win just across the board. My opponent's probably not going to play to Limbo. They're probably going to let me have it. And now I'm able to squeeze out a win in that Time Theater in the center. And I thought this was just a really cool game with a backup plan. We dodge an Alioth. We beat a junk deck as a Hela deck. And overall, I thought this was just a spicy game to end on, and my opponent Spice was a really great sport about it there. That's going to be it for me today. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm No Luck's Given. Peace.